Hey, welcome inside the Fox Weather ROWI Report. I'm Fox Weather meteorologist Steve Bender. We are locked in on Week 16 of NFL football. Is your fantasy team still alive? That's what Jared and I were just talking about. We'll talk not only fantasy football, what this means for the week coming up, obviously the games itself, and if you're putting money on it, where maybe we could start to see some bets that could look a little bit better, all depending on the weather, of course. We've seen in recent weeks some high-impact games with weather, snow games, wind, the cold itself. What do we got dialed up this week? Well, we're going to take you out to the Pac Northwest. If you've been on the Fox Weather stream or you care about weather at all, you've been probably hearing about the Pac Northwest over the last 10 days. They had a historic atmospheric river event last week, and they're experiencing it right now early this week. But notice this does impact Thursday night football. So we got Seattle with an impressive win over Indianapolis. I say impressive. I know it was all field goals. But what an incredible kind of game that was. I think so many people were watching, obviously, for Phillip Rivers. But Sam Darnold not doing bad. Almost threw up 300 yards. And, of course, the kicker doing what he does. I think he had 6 field goals in that win for Seattle. What's it going to look like this week? Well, we know kickoff's going to be at 8 p.m. local time. This is the hour leading up to that event. And for Lumen Stadium, it's just, when you're looking at, if you're on the screen with us, you see the nameplate Seattle, it would be right where the S or the E is at, right before it goes into the water. It's right on the cusp of that. So you do have some light rainfall moving throughout this event. You fast forward to 9 p.m. Now you're at kickoff, and you're still seeing some of the light showers. And it looks like, for the most part, this does miss Seattle in regards of a direct shot of heavy rain. And that oftentimes happens. Even in this big atmospheric river event, it goes up into the Cascades, into the mountains, in those areas outside of Seattle. But as we look at the forecast, still looking at rain that can play into Thursday night, and it's not just the only weather element that we measure. Of course, if you've been with us here for the risk of weather impact, the ROWI report, we lock in on multiple kind of components. Precipitation's one, then you got wind, and you got temperature. So here is the game. This is going to be Seattle Thursday, 8:15 p.m. Precipitation impact still at an elevated, looking at a high type of impact because of that rain we just forecasted out. There's multiple sparks that could come in throughout the game. Wind is at a medium threshold, and then temperature really not much of a factor. So when you average all of that together, it's at a medium risk of weather impact. It does look like it plays out for multiple hours. Jared, come on in. Let's get into this and see exactly what you're seeing with overall. I mean, we talked about the rain. We showed it out on the Seattle Metro view of this event. But, I mean, just looking at this atmospheric river and the one we had last week, it's almost outperformed, right, what we would say. So when you're looking at this, the rain still a big factor for what we're kind of looking at overall for Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, the Rams have a very balanced attack, so in theory, they should be able to handle weather pretty well. But granted, they play in a dome, they play in Los Angeles. They're not really used to this in the same way the Seattle players are, who are going about their lives. In theory, it's a slight edge to the Seahawks, but there's no real edges to be gained on any specific players, I would say.
Okay, so for fantasy looking out, this is not something like you're looking at, start or sit potential, right? It's just, if you got your dogs, just let them run.
You got your dogs, let them run. If you like your players, you don't like the Seattle defense, then you evaluate from there.
All right. I mean, you got 2 powerhouse teams, 11-3, both of them. Let's get into Soldier Field. This was one last week, bone cold. I mean, that looked awful. I was actually kind of surprised how many sleeveless, dudes were out there. They're just all rocking. I think it's this machoism, of course, showing, hey, I'm not impacted by the weather. And we'll see. Green Bay, obviously not hurting either. They're used to the cold. So overall, that's going to be the biggest factor. Right now, it's at a medium risk of weather impact when you combine not only the temperature impact, but the wind component of all of this. And this is an important matchup. We know the Packers are leading in this. They just played each other 2 weeks ago, Jared. And so when you're looking at this setup, I mean, I think you got a lot of guys that would be starters for fantasy football in this matchup. Do you think this plays a big enough factor as we move into this is Saturday night football?
Yeah, so Chicago played excellently last week in the cold against Cleveland. Green Bay, both these teams are very cold-hearted. They can go and
cold-hearted. All right.
Cold-hearted. They can go and play in these weather conditions just fine. It's right on that edge where the wind chill is bringing it down into that medium category, but it's nothing that's overall too concerning. Like, this is something where, yes, the longer field goals are not going to be a walk in the park, but you still should be able to pass on both of these defenses, especially the Packers with Micah Parsons out. The Bears have to be feeling pretty good about themselves. I wouldn't be too worried about how either of these guys are going to play from a weather perspective.
With the kickers, because I think Green Bay has kind of struggled through this, I don't know, with Chicago. So is that something with this type of cold that you would limit potentially having either one of these kickers, or is it kind of a non-factor because, I mean, we're still seeing temperatures likely in the 20s?
I mean, if you have the chance to go and live bet longer kicks, you probably can bet against them. But in terms of fantasy, a lot of it is very score dependent. Like, if you have drives that are stalling at the 20-yard line, it's not enough to scare me off either of these offenses.
Okay.
Both these offenses are good enough where your kicker is going to get plenty of opportunities, and whether there's extra points or there's short field goals that give you 3 or 4, it depends on the luck of the draw. So I'm not I have better kicking options out there, but I'm not terrified to start any of these
left
kickers.
with this. Okay, that's good to look at. Looking here, Huntington, Bakefield, Cleveland. Obviously, they had that cold weather game yesterday or last week, as you had talked about. But Buffalo, they've been a machine, and they've been looking better as they move through the season. And this is going to be another cold game. But you have two northern teams. I don't know. I mean, I don't see a weakness in Buffalo right now because of the guy who's taking the snaps. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they got to throw it, they're going to throw it. If they got to run, not only do you got Josh Allen, but Cooks. Cooks has looked good, and I think this just plays into their wheelhouse overall. I don't see any type of limitation for Buffalo here.
Yeah, the wind is going to be a little bit higher here than it is in that Chicago-Green Bay game. So you do have a bit more of a concern with field goals, and you have a bit more of a concern with longer passes. And I would say the passing game of the Cleveland Browns, even though the Bills' defense has not been the best, it's probably going to be a little bit suspect in this game. Josh Allen's famous for his strong arm. The Bills' offense has been clicking recently. You should expect them to play fairly well overall.
Okay, let's get into some teams
Not too scared.
Yeah, not too scared with that matchup. I feel like the Bills, that's just one of those trap games, though. Like, go and bring the momentum.
Hey, Myles
and
Garrett,
the
he's
business.
chasing that sack record.
He is. And, I mean, look, I don't think the offense is doing him any justice or have a lot of time on the field if you're Myles Garrett, likely. So you may get a chance to get that sack record. Let's take it to Bank of America Stadium. This is in Charlotte, North Carolina. The Panthers have been sneaky good. I mean, this is a massive game at this point. Both tied 7-7 here midway through the season and a low risk of weather impact. And honestly, you couldn't ask for better weather if you're heading to the game. We had the cold early this week. We actually had some cold alerts that got all the way down into Florida. It was north of Tampa, but then it did impact areas outside of Charlotte and the Carolinas feeling that cold many mornings. I think it was 2 mornings this week. They woke up into the 20s, if not even in the teens, with the feels like temperature. That's not a worry, Jared, as we look into the weekend. It starts to warm back up. They're into the mid-60s there. Let's take it into a spot where maybe it does feel a little bit cooler. This is going to be Saturday afternoon to evening football. I love this time of year. You know, now we're starting to get NFL almost around the clock. It feels like on the weekend you can play. And Eagles, they're just trying to keep that momentum going and obviously secure what they're doing right now. I don't think weather's going to be a big factor, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a bit more of a factor here than in that Carolina-Tampa Bay game. That would have been that Carolina-Tampa Bay game, if that was played in these conditions, would have been completely ugly. But these, these teams are a little bit more used to it. Philly finally got a get-right game against the Raiders last week, and they are on a talent perspective with their offensive line, their talent on the running game. Even they have just so much talent across the board that they should be fine. They should not really be affected by the weather here. I mean, the 10 miles per hour when it gets colder, sure, you don't want to be kicking those longer field goals. You probably go for it a little bit more often in that range, in that 40 to 35-yard line range. Other than that, you shouldn't see anything too substantial weather-wise.
Well, also notice the wind's out of the south, too. So it's ushering in a warmer air. This is not like when you're talking about wind chill, oftentimes That's that northerly wind or northwest wind that can be brutal. If anything, this is kind of moderating and solidifying the temperatures into the 40s, keeping it mild for those type of teams. Let's take it down into Miami Gardens. The disappointment that continues on for the Dolphins. We were just watching them last night on Monday. They kept the first half competitive. They were winning most of it, and then they went into half losing and then just dropped it. And I mean, it just comes back to, I just don't think they're not a cold team, right? And it's proven time and time again. So thankfully they're back at home for all of this.
We got a broken graphic here.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like,
whoa, some graphics broke. This should be low ROWI here across the board.
This should
Very
be low.
warm and comfortable temperatures. The Bengals are very frustrated right now, and they the first panel is right.
Yeah, we're going to leave it at this one. All right. So what you saw was what the Bengals wished that the forecast was, and likely it was probably for.
I don't even know
Cincinnati
if they wish that there. They want a nice warm day.
Well,
they had an
probably
awful game against Baltimore last week when it was freezing.
True.
So they both these teams are going to want to get this as a get right game. Both these teams.
Do you want to get right though? I mean, you don't even have a shot.
I guess you want to improve your draft pick, but if the Bengals, they just for morale's sake, they need a win. Like the Dolphins kind of already had their dead cat.
Listen to Joe Burrow recently. It sounds like that dude's ready to just retire. He's ready to quit. So we'll see.
Maybe ask for a trade.
Yeah, he's going to be asking for some for sure. Looking at this is Vikings taking on the Giants, and not much of a factor here. Kind of surprising because you have a northern, obviously East Rutherford in New Jersey. We had talked about some of those games up north near the Great Lakes. Maybe there's going to be an impact for the Northeast. Not bad. I mean, the window is close.
The wind
right on the
fairly
cusp.
Close.
Yeah, I mean, that's breezy, and you're looking at temperatures that are, saying 40s, but it's going to feel like it's back in the 30s potentially because that wind is coming purely out of the west. And so, I don't know how many people are going to have many guys on these teams as of right now. Maybe Justin Jefferson, but still is struggling to get in the ball.
I don't think your Justin Jefferson players are in the playoffs.
Yeah,
right
not
now.
anymore. I feel like, unless you were magically just sitting them for a while because you're like, he's just going to be going through a dry spell. He's probably been, let go. I'm looking at this. This doesn't look like a great setup for either team. But
yeah, that stadium is very protective from the wind in MetLife, but it's still fairly close to that medium threshold, so you do tend to see a reduced passing attack over long periods of time.
Okay. As we get into what we're looking at Nissan Stadium, this is Nashville, Tennessee. The Chiefs' dynasty hopefully officially coming to an end. That's what it seems like. And, Tennessee just obviously struggling this year as well. Overall, no big weather impact on this. You're looking at mild conditions. They did have brutally cold conditions early in the week. We will be talking about on Thursday a low-end severe threat. It's a damaging wind event. That's coming up here again on Thursday, Nissan Stadium, but really Nashville is in the heart of that. But as you move into the weekend, it's a warming trend, and we're warming up into the holidays, and it looks like, honestly, this time of year, Jared, you couldn't ask for better weather, mid to upper 50s, comfortable with a light wind, if that.
Yeah, both these teams aren't feeling too great about themselves, but I 100% agree with you, Steve. Like, this is fantastic for mid-late December.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for better weather. So getting out there, Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Denver Broncos. Two teams probably, maybe outperforming expectations early in the season or what was predicted and doing well. Now you're starting to see okay, how do I keep this momentum going into the playoffs potentially in Power Field at Mile High Stadium? Denver, this is a spot again of the country where Denver is kind of on that whiplash effect. I know a bunch of the local Mets there, and they always joke because, look, we're in a warming trend, and you have so much of the Pac Northwest that's getting dumped on, some parts of the Rockies that are getting dumped on, and Denver is actually setting daily high records. I saw that earlier in the week as they tiptoed into the 60s, and it looks like as you get into the weekend, another, beautiful forecast. This is kind of how I would love to spend my Sunday afternoon, evening time, exiting out the weekend if I could as a Broncos fan, getting out to the stadium with these type of temperatures.
Yeah, the only thing you really need to worry about is a little bit of wind, but in Denver, you can make up for it even if you have wind in your face with just how light the air is as a whole.
Yeah, this is interesting for kickers, right? You got two massive legs out there that are going to be kicking the ball, as you said, thin air, and with that wind, if it sets up behind you, could we be looking at some record-setting field goals? Maybe. I don't know. Jacksonville
any week at Denver with that Jags kicker, he could do it.
That's what I'm saying.
He could definitely do it.
Yeah, so you got two opportunities there. Obviously, this is a big matchup, and we have a temperature type of impact for Baltimore. This is going to be Sunday, but notice this is the late game, and so that's what's allowing those temperatures to continue to drop. The wind doesn't seem that big of a factor, but it's something that we'll watch because even at a slight uptick could potentially lead into a cold aspect. I know we have the very last hour under that, and it's because temperatures will probably feel sub-freezing at that point, Jared, but then you look at the teams, and it's like two northern teams. I'm not sure they're really going to be feeling it.
It's really a weak sauce medium ROWI here. It's a little fraudulent.
Nice.
The thing to look at here is that in theory your passing attack is slightly worse, but again it's not really a concern for either of these teams. It's more so how you feel about the matchups than it is a weather concern.
Yeah. All right. So that's this week for week 16 of NFL football. We have some games that obviously have medium risk of weather impact, others that are on that threshold. So we'll be watching this closely. I do encourage you to come check us out on the Fox Weather stream. We have a whole lot of big weather topics. They just don't really play out over the weekend. Why you're not seeing major impacts, but tomorrow is something awesome that we haven't done all season long yet, and that is the Fox Weather Ski House. You got Ian Oliver, the guy that you usually hear chirping on the podcast. He's in Big Sky Country at Big Sky Resort in Montana, along with Bane Froney, and they're hosting the Fox Weather Ski House. Jared, I don't know about you. I'm a skier, snowboarder. I absolutely love this, and I think it's awesome watching the crew get out there. Ian is an absolute
that house
on the slopes
is
too.
Beautiful, I have to say.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous scenic site.
Yeah, no, if you've ever been skiing, you know one of the most difficult things is finding the place to stay. Because if you don't stay at the resort, then it's a pain in the butt. Well, we've figured that out at the Fox Weather Ski House. You want to stay at these houses. It's a ski in, ski out type of setup. It is immaculate. That's going to be playing out Wednesday afternoon. So if you can find some time, it starts at 3 p.m. I encourage you to come check it out. And then if you hang out long enough, you're going to hear me chirping in your ear because I'm after Fox Weather Ski House through the late show 6 to 9 as well. So we still got a lot going on Fox Weather outside of the sports. So make sure if you get an opportunity to come check it out and check in later in the week. We'll likely have a bonus episode and tighten up some of these impacts overall for week 16 of NFL football. Until then, be safe, be smart, be weather wise, and we'll see you on the next pod.